and welcome to the cake tip. Today we're going to be baking strawberry and thyme white chocolate chip cupcakes. To begin with, you're going to need stevia and butter. I will put the measurements of the ingredients in the description underneath the video also. So stevia is similar to sugar with much lower calories and much better for you. You can choose to use either butter or olive spread or even dairy-free if you choose to. We're going to combine both of these ingredients in a bowl together. You can choose to use a standalone mixer or do this by hand. So grab yourself your bowl and place your stevia in the bottom first of all. This stops any of the butter sticking to the edges of the bowl. Do also try to make sure that your butter is nice and soft at room temperature. It makes it far easier to combine, especially if you're going to be doing this by hand. If you're doing this by hand, grab yourself a spatula to stir until combined. If not, place this in a food processor or standalone mixer to combine. Now you're going to need to grab yourself a couple of muffin trays and place 12 cupcake cases into them ready for the mix. When your butter and stevia have combined, they should look like this, so it's lovely and soft and ready for the next stage, which is the eggs. So you're going to need 3 large eggs at room temperature, preferably free range as well. It gives you a much better taste and rise within your cupcakes. So just whisk them to combine, just so they become a little bit bubbly, ready to add to your mixture. Now to combine your eggs into your mix, you're going to do a little at a time. If you're using a spatula, just use a little bit of egg, whisk it together and then another little bit of egg. If not, place it in your standalone food processor and add a little egg at a time. This is what it should look like afterwards. Don't worry if it's curdled a little bit. It's because we've added extra egg for it being gluten-free flour. Otherwise, your cupcakes will end up very dry. This will not be a problem towards the end, please don't worry. Next, we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla bean. I prefer vanilla bean because it gives you much better flavour, especially as you're going to be using other flavours in there. You want that to come through nicely. So just grab your spatula again and we're just going to combine this vanilla extract into the mix itself. You don't need to pop it back into the standalone mixer for this, just do it by hand, that will be fine. We're now going to do something a little different to normal. We're going to add our sugar-free chocolate chips to our flour to begin with. The reason we're going to do this is so that when our chocolate chips are in our cupcakes, they don't sink to the bottom. By coating them in the flour first of all, that stops this happening. So just using a spoon, stir your chips round into your flour. Once they're completely coated, and you can see that by bringing the spoon up with a few on there just to make sure they are, you're going to grab yourself a sieve and put all of your flour mix with your chocolate chips over the sieve into another bowl. So this is just going to filter all of the flour without the chocolate chips through into the bowl underneath. Just gently move it around until it's all gone through and you have them separated once again. So as you can see, all the chocolate chips are now covered in flour and your flour is in a separate bowl. Transfer your chocolate chips to an individual bowl again and then we move on to the next stage. You're going to need 5 sprigs of fresh thyme and you're going to take off the leaves and you're going to add it to your chocolate chips, which are already covered in a flour. This will have the same effect on the thyme as it did on the chocolate chips. This is just literally so that you have an even distribution throughout the cupcakes of the thyme so that you get a nice even flavour. So just pick all of the leaves off. Once you've finished, you'll see that it becomes nice and green. Just use a spoon to turn it into the chocolate chips and cover them completely in the flour also. Pop that bowl aside as we move on to the strawberries. Now you're going to need the strawberries to be fresh or frozen, that's not a problem, but they'll need to be at room temperature so they're easy enough to crush with a fork. So you're just going to crush them up slightly. You don't want them completely mashed, you still want there to be a few lumps in there so that when you're biting to the cupcake, you get a big burst of strawberry every now and again. Once they're done, you can pop them aside. We're now going to add our sieved flour to our main bowl of mix. Now, once you've added this flour, you can once again choose to do it by hand, or you can put it in a standalone mixer, whichever you choose to do until it's fully combined, but don't overbeat it. Otherwise you will end up with not enough air in there to help them to rise in the oven. So this is how you want your mix to look when it's complete. It should be just like really thick whipped cream, lovely and creamy and silky and light. Now we're ready to add the rest of our ingredients. So first of all, you're going to grab your chocolate chips first of all, and you're going to just turn them into the mixture gently. So using your spatula, literally just turn from underneath and fold over the top. You only need to do this a few times until it's combined. We don't want to lose the flour off of the chocolate chips that will allow them to then sink. Now we're ready to add our strawberries to the mix. So you're going to use a fork to do this because you don't want the liquid from underneath to thin the mixture in any way at all. So just take forkfuls of your mix and put it around the top of the mixture, because when we fold this in, we literally want to fold it as minimal amount as possible because we don't want to turn the whole mix into a strawberry flavour. It wants to be bursts of strawberry. Once they're all in, set your bowl aside and grab your spatula so that we can turn these in. This is really between 5 and 10 mixes, that's all you want to do until it's just combined. That's perfect, that's exactly how we want it. So as you can see, it's just combined in there and it hasn't turned too pink. Now we're ready to place our mixture into our cupcake cases. So pop that aside, grab a hold of your tins, and we're going to use a 1/4 cup to place a spoonful in each cup. You don't want huge amounts in there, but you do want to try and make sure that each cupcake does have a certain amount of strawberry in there. So you want them about 3/4 filled each time, and that will allow them to rise just to the edges of the cupcake cases. Continue filling up all of your cupcake cases until all of your mix is used up. Once you've filled all of your cases, you're going to pop them into an oven that's preheated to 170 degrees fan, and you're going to bake them for roughly 18 to 20 minutes until they're fully risen. Once they spring back to the touch, remove them from the oven, allow them to cool for a few minutes in their trays, and then transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. Now we're going to prepare our decoration for the top of the cupcakes. You're going to need some sugar-free white chocolate chips for this, and some beetroot powder. If you don't have beetroot powder, don't worry, you can use food colouring. But you literally just want to colour these slightly. You want them a mild pink, not a red. You now need to melt this in either a microwave or a double boiler, but it does need to be done very slowly because they're sugar-free. Take a hold of a couple of completely cool cupcakes and then you're ready to start decorating. So using your spoon, make sure you keep stirring the whole time as you're decorating, because sugar-free chocolate does have a tendency to go hard much quicker. So you're just going to stir with your spoon, then when you have a certain amount on your spoon and you think it's thin enough, you're just going to dribble it across the top of each cupcake. Now, if you do find that the chocolate mix is just a little bit too thick, you can add a little bit of coconut oil to it to thin it, but it is a very slow process to incorporate it. So dribble them across the top of each cupcake, and once you've got all of your cupcakes covered, then you can move on to decorating with a little bit of thyme, fresh thyme, if you choose to. Take one cupcake and begin to add some fresh thyme to it. You're literally going to do very similar to what you've done in the mix. You're just going to pick the leaves off and place a few over the top. Try not to do too many because it can become a little bit overpowering. It's literally just for decoration rather than taste. Once you've completed all of your cupcakes, set them aside to set completely. Please remember to subscribe for all future videos for vegan, gluten-free, paleo, sugar-free and much, much more. Thanks for watching.